All right, Joe, the question that all inquiring minds want to know. How many Kleenex did you go through last night watching Hard Knocks? Did you go through any?
I mean, we're used to watching players get injured, and obviously when you know the guy personally, it makes it a little bit tougher. I think Hard Knocks did a nice job in the way they, built up to what we knew what was coming. It's kind of like watching the Titanic. You know how it ends, but you still watch it. And at the end, you're like, wow, this is still pretty good. So, yeah, tough deal for Jalen Phillips. Glad to see that he tweeted this morning that he had a successful Achilles surgery, and certainly we hope to see him back early next year.
Well, did you water up? I did. I'm just wondering. Did you? You're admitting.
I'm not a big crier.
Okay. All right. Okay. I thought it was a phenomenal episode for the Dolphins organization. One of the things that I've said that, people were afraid of Hard Knocks this time around, and I said, this is a completely different franchise now. This is the one you want to have on Hard Knocks. They're not dysfunctional. This is what you want to sell. This is going to be great selling material for this team. When somebody else is watching it around the league that might not be happy in their situation, do they look at that situation and say, dude, that's a coach in a place I want to be at? Is this a good selling tool for the Miami Dolphins?
Yeah. I mean, there's always a chance that something will pop up that does not paint the organization in a positive light. But yeah, McDaniel is obviously one of the coaches who many players would like to play for. We know all the other reasons: the weather, the facilities, commitment to spending, taxes. So now the problem for the Dolphins is they're not going to have a lot of salary cap space, especially if they re-sign some of their key players.
That's a whole bunch of bullshit. They'll be able to restructure guys. They're going to cut guys. They know how to draft. They know how to get undrafted guys. And Hard Knocks will also attract people that will want to come towards the end of their careers and take a little less. And again, no tax state. That also helps. But now this time they have a chance to win. I think you guys are selling way too much FUD on the cap. I think their cap problems come 2 more years from now when they have to pay Tua. When Tua's salary kicks in. Not his first year, which won't be next year or the year after. It's 3 years from now when his salary kicks in, the big salary, and then that's when problems start. I think they can work around the next 2 years. I think you guys are lighting a fire that isn't there, actually. Quite honestly.
Well, first of all, it's going to be interesting to see how they use the tags. For example, do they tag Christian Wilkins this year for next? And then, it's not fake news to say that re-signing your center, right guard, and right tackle is going to be an easy task. That's not fake news.
I didn't say
all free agents. Well, they're all free agents at the same time. So,
right. And Agba won't be here. X won't be here. Those salaries replace those salaries. You know what I'm saying? So there'll be guys that will not be here. Christian Wilkins, we still don't know if he'll be back or not yet because we have to see how the rest of the season finishes. But he is on his way to earning a nice salary because he's on a nice pace now that he's never been on. Although he's not playing as well against the run, but he is being more of a pass rusher.
He's on pace for a career-high 10 sacks, and Wilkins is not a dumb guy. He understands what 10 sacks will mean for him in free agency. It means that number will get driven up a little bit closer to some of the D tackles who not only create pressure but also get sacks.
Yeah. But I think there are salaries that won't be in the mix that will kind of open things up, and then there are things that they can do to kind of loosen things up. I don't think they're going to have real issues for a couple of more years. I think you guys are sending out next year is not even a problem. It's so easy to work around the stuff for next year. It's a couple of years down the line, I think, is where it gets ugly. But overall, the vibe of around Phillips, the guys after we're talking about, supporting him, all that kind of stuff. Mike McDaniel, when he gets kicked in the hit in the shoulder or kicked in the shoulder and then hit in the groin, and that was a funny line. It's like I got a twofer. My D hurts and I can't do anything about it. I gotta tell you, he didn't flinch, bro. As painful as it obviously is, I gotta give him mad props how he handled that.
Yeah, I don't think I couldn't expect any coach to be like fall down to the ground and squirm around in pain.
Oh, but damn, at least some kind of reaction. Like there was, like he stayed calm and cool, dude. I gotta give him credit there. But what he said, it was just so funny. Like typical Mike McDaniel. I mean, who did not laugh at that line? That was just freaking awesome.
After the interceptions, and this does not surprise us, we saw Mike McDaniel say, "Don't sweat it. Don't worry about it. Don't," and obviously that's Mike's approach. And that's the right approach, especially for Tua. The corrections happen in the meeting room. The corrections happen away from the cameras. And you see, conversely, Bill O'Brien and Bill Belichick, for example, emotionally destroying Mac Jones, who's not a great quarterback, but is not as bad as he has become. Part of that is a lack of confidence because he's been broken down.
Yeah, but I'm not happy that Tua is not fixing this issue. It's gone on already a little too long. I don't mind if it happens for a week or two, maybe in 3. It happens but it's like a 6-week thing now that he has been too loosey-goosey with the ball, and I don't know if he's getting a little too cocky, that he's just throwing things that he shouldn't. Things that were obvious, like one of the Jets interceptions that he threw. It's like, yo, dude, you don't have the kind of arm to do that. Your throw is Tory.
I am proud of you. I am proud of you for saying that.
There was because he has to throw it.
They were both on out. They're both on outs. The first one was a hitch.
And
the guy had every chance to read it.
Yeah, he threw. He should know that by the time he made that decision, it was too late to make that throw. Okay. And he should not make that throw. Just like the one to Waddle in between 3 freaking guys. Like, and I know that he does it sometimes, that he'll drop it into people in between 2, 3, 4 guys. I've seen him do it. But if you're in a funk and you continue to do, well, then at the moment, bro, stay away from it. And so that's the one knock I have on him lately here, is that he is turning over the ball too much.
Well, here comes the Washington defense.
You get away with it.
They're terrible, right? Because they've given up more yards than any team in the NFL.
And they have no pass rush.
They have turmoil. They traded away good players, gave away good players. And they give up lots of yards per play. So,
right.
You're going to see aggressiveness.
You don't want to do that against Baltimore. You don't want to do that against Buffalo. You don't want to do that against Dallas, and you don't want to do that in the playoffs, because
they might play it a little differently depending on the opponent. But you don't want to take away. Darrell Bevell, according to the Hard Knocks video, told Tua keep shooting at halftime. Keep shooting, and you have to have that. You have to have that mindset. You can't go too far one way or the other. You can't play scared, and you can't be overly aggressive. Tua, to his credit, and you saw him sitting in his locker stall at halftime, very calm, very cool, doesn't get flustered. That is a good trait for a quarterback. He's a calm, cool, and collected assassin.
Yeah, no, I know all that about him. That's why I've never wavered on how great he can be as a passer. I know he can do all of that. It's just lately, Marino used to do this too. Any elite quarterback, they get into a funk where they're forcing stuff at times and they're trying a little too hard. And I think that that's what he's doing. Although what I said to Safid, I'll tell you, I think he's reaching a boiling point for himself now, because he's been a little bit more talkative about it, a little bit more emotional about it, that he's beaten himself up a little bit more in public in front of you guys on the interceptions. And I think that's really important for him to do that, because if you want to get to the Super Bowl and win it, to me, the missing ingredient right now in the Dolphins, it's not defense anymore. It's not your offense. It's your turnovers. You eliminate the interceptions and the fumbles, and my God, you might be unstoppable.
Yeah, he always takes responsibility. And, Raheem Mostert, who is having one of the best seasons for any running back in the NFL, kind of under the radar, I'm assuming he's also a free agent. So like all these guys are going to have to, so how much do you pay this guy? How much do you pay this guy? And I know he wants to stay, and maybe he will take a little less, but he needs to have that ball security too. We've seen the ball get loose a little bit from Raheem. So
Tyreek lost the game by himself with that fumble against Kansas City, all by his lonesome. He lost that fumble and the beautiful bomb that Tua dropped to him, that was. You were already in points right there. If he catches that ball, which he should have, you were already in field goal range. You know what I'm saying?
The Eagles guy, A.J. Brown, they said it wasn't a fumble. That play is not too dissimilar from the Tyreek play. So the officiating is just wildly inconsistent. It's unfortunate. I mean, it's not, unique necessarily to the NFL. We see it in baseball and hockey as well. But it was nice to see Jalen Waddle have 8 targets and 8 catches. I talk about this in the Tape Don't Lie. In the previous 2 games, he only hauled in 50% of his target attempts. Sometimes there's drops, sometimes there's little alligator arms, and we love Jalen Waddle. But nice to see him hold on to the football and have a really strong game. I felt he was a little underutilized in recent weeks.
All right, help me out with these 2 issues with the Dolphins. Let's talk about the first one, which I'm a little surprised. I guess I'm incredibly wrong here on this. I thought they easily would be able to develop a third receiver. I thought they had enough guys that somebody, especially Craycraft, and I know he was injured, now he's back, but Berrios I thought would be a good slot. Claypool I know got injured. Cedric has shown us something. To me, that's kind of been part of the turnovers, because you have to force it to the top 2 guys so much. There isn't another guy, because your tight end isn't nearly as active. So how important or how desperately does Miami need to actually develop a more reliable third option so Tua has another third option on a consistent basis, so he doesn't have to force it to the 2 other guys, and maybe you can avoid some turnovers? Are you a little shocked, like I am, that a third guy really hasn't taken hold of that job?
I think the third option should be Raheem Mostert and or Devon Achane when healthy, whether it's out of the backfield or on the field as a slot. When we briefly saw both of them recently, I think the Dolphins opened the game with Mostert in the backfield and Achane in the slot, or vice versa. You can use them both on the field at the same time. I think it's more important that the Dolphins make sure that and Tua make sure that he doesn't necessarily force everything to Tyreek to try to get him 2,000 yards, because he's the most dangerous offensive weapon in the NFL, and to make sure that Waddle gets his. I'm less concerned about the Thanksgiving leftovers. Braxton Berrios is like, the stuffing or the sweet potatoes, the cranberry sauce, maybe Cedric Wilson. They're sort of the side dishes. They're complementary. They're not the primary Thanksgiving go-to options, which would, of course, be turkey. And what else? Turkey's the number 1 most important Thanksgiving item. And then what's number 2?
Gravy. Gravy.
Yeah, all right. So we'll say Waddle's the gravy to
right. Yes.
Tyreek's turkey. Yeah. Yes. But everything else is kind of like extra, cranberry sauce, pecan pie, Achane's kind of like the pecan pie, right? Because, he's great when he's available. He just hasn't been available enough.
Yeah. And I think, to their credit, they've been very patient, but obviously, the kid wasn't ready when they brought him back, unfortunately, and he got dinged up again. Hopefully he'll come back on the next go around and stay healthy. The other question is, and I don't know if, because I watch all the press conferences, I don't know if you guys have asked him this directly. Why does Mike McDaniel hate to run on 3rd and 4th and 1? Why? What is it? You're actually one of the best running teams in the NFL. And at this stage, you would now surprise defenses if you ran on 3rd and 4th and 1, because all you do is ever pass on 3rd and 4th and 1.
Yeah, I
It's
mean
the
the research shows that passing is as effective in general as rushing. The Dolphins don't necessarily have that pure power back. Maybe if Chris Brooks was available, you'd say, okay, let's get Chris Brooks in there. Obviously, they don't necessarily want to give the ball to Ingold because he doesn't touch it that much, and so there's the chance that he could cough it up. But yeah, I mean, obviously, and also the Dolphins are so often in shotgun, right? We get mad if they go shotgun 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. So not a lot of under center. There's been some snapping issues. I'm sure there's a lot of things at play here. But yeah, obviously, we'd like to see. Mostert hasn't had the best ball security. So do you want to pitch it to him on a toss sweep? You know what I mean? There's a lot of things at play here, and I'm thinking that Mike's thinking Tua to Tyreek turnaround for a 2-yard gain should be 90% plus. Should be. It hasn't been. So, I'm sure he's considering mixing in some more runs. But do you go on a center, right? Are you okay with 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, Mostert handoff from shotgun? You all right with that?
No, I'm not. Actually,
so maybe they don't do a lot of under center, right? It's mostly shotgun.
I'd like it under center more than anything else. But what I'd like to do is just see a little bit more run more often on 3rd and 4th and 1, and that stupid screen doesn't end up working because you can't block it. You can't ever block it in front of the guy, and so you end up screwing up the damn play. So it's just, although Saffold had a funny one. So maybe, because I said maybe they go Rocky on us, right? Because Rocky, go southpaw on him. No, I'm going to hold it up. I mean, he waits till the 12th round to go southpaw on Apollo. So maybe now in the playoffs, all of a sudden, that's Mike is just screwing with all of us, passing on 3rd and 4th. And then in the playoffs, he'll just run on 3rd and 4th and 1s. And then we're like, oh, wait a minute. He just does. He was keeping us off balance the whole year. I don't know, man.
Quarterback sneak not being available is, unfortunate because obviously his former teammate Jalen Hurts, ironically, is the best quarterback sneaker in NFL history. Him and Tom Brady.
He squat 600 pounds. Yeah.
Well, Tom Brady was also a great quarterback sneaker, and I don't think he squatted 600 pounds.
He's 6'4". You use Mahomes, and he blows out his ankle. You use Tua, and he's going to get hurt.
I know. I'm not advocating for the quarterback sneak.
But
not advocating for it.
Not with him.
Unfortunate. I know.
You got to know what you have, right? And you're not doing it with Drew Brees. You're not doing it with him. You can do it with Russell, with Wilson, because he's obviously a little bit more stout. But at this point, he's so important to your existence that you just can't put him in those kind of risks.
Mike White quarterback sneak statistics would be interesting if someone out there wants to look it up and tweet it at me.
Okay.
Obviously, he's not Jacoby Brissett. All right, Florida successfully used Jacoby Brissett because he was a massive dude.
Right.
Mike White is not a massive dude, but I am curious if anyone out there has Mike, and I can look it up later, but if someone has it, Mike White rushes on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1.
Yeah.
Let me know his success rate.
In that situation, you know what I mean? That's the thing. It's but
not
listen,
just with the Dolphins, your career.
Yeah, and just like Tua's done a marvelous job of playing smart and not taking on hits, you also have to be smart as a team and not put them in those kind of positions too, at the same time. So I don't have a problem with that. I just think your guys up front, and Joe, this is the first time you've covered a Dolphins team that could field 5 guys, and now they also have backups, and they have a marvelous coaching staff that can develop players, dude. That's ridiculous. I
wrote in the Tape Don't Lie that Butch Berry deserves NFL Position Coach of the Year consideration. Now, I don't actually know if that award exists, but if not, we can just make it up and give it to him on Twitter.
Yep. I have no problem with that because he has done a marvelous job, overall. Can we now say, Joe, that if this coaching staff was here from day one, we would have never had issues with Jackson and Eichenberg. The problems with Jackson and Eichenberg.
They're developmental prospects, even coming out of the draft, especially Jackson was considered a developmental prospect. Someone who was very young, someone who needed to get stronger, someone who had some, health things to work through. So I think, I was talking to Austin and Kendall Lamb about Jawan James, because I feel like Austin Jackson at this point has sort of reached the Jawan James peak level. You know what I mean? And Jawan, there was that big thing. Do we pay him? Do we not pay him? They let him walk. And of course, there'll be a decision at some point here with Austin.
He's better.
How much do we pay him? Interesting. Better than Jawan James ever was. Very interesting.
Yes.
I thought Jawan was very solid.
He was solid. Yeah. I remember the guy I wanted that year was Morgan Moses, not him. And I thought Morgan actually had a better career than Jawan James. But
the injuries took him out at the end.
I think Austin Jackson's problem and Eichenberg's problem was they didn't have these guys. First 2 years, they didn't have any coaching. And then last year, both guys were injured. And so they didn't really get to work with them. I think they would have been completely different players by now.
The scheme is better, too. It was a different scheme.
That's what I'm saying.
Scheme. You're being asked to block massive, powerful dudes.
Everything is the offense, the scheme, everything matters because it all jives. It all complements each other. And in the first 2 years, they didn't have that structure with their offensive staff. Their offensive line coach wasn't necessarily gelling with the offensive, coordinator or the quarterback's coach and all that. That was a mess, dude. Here, everybody's in sync, and that's where you got to love it, bro. And that's why I think the environment, those guys would have never played as bad as they looked under the tutelage of these gentlemen here. I think they would have had a much better start to their careers. And here's the thing.
Hopefully Connor Williams and Austin Jackson look at the situation that they're in and say, you know what? Good team, good quarterback, good head coach, good position coach, good place to live, taxes, facilities, all the things we talk about, chance to win, and they accept a reasonable offer. That's my hope. Yeah. Both good dudes, by the way. So that's the thing. They're like they're not bad. Not a lot of offensive linemen are bad in the locker room, but
they could end up with
those are good team guys.
They could end up with a nice bargain with Eichenberg because you can't necessarily ask for a ton of money.
He's not a starter, though. He's at this point, he's a good guard center backup.
And maybe he turns into a starter under these guys. And maybe I think Chris Greer gets one of those 2-year specials that he does with Eichenberg. And then Eichenberg, if he turns into a hell of a player, like kind of the Ogba thing, you end up getting like a bargain for 2 years because he turns into a good player for you overall. Here's the one I have for you on the way out. How do you handle Jalen Phillips? Because he didn't completely turn the corner. He hasn't completely put together a full season of 12 sacks. And so now you've got an Achilles injury. He probably won't be healthy till this time next year. And he won't be himself for the rest of that season next year because the man's coming.
We don't know. Cam Wake was great the next year. So, it's possible.
But okay, but then you're getting into the contract stuff. So you're at a decision that you don't even know if you can pay him. It might be a tag thing now is what it is for him to hold off another year to see if he can really play, and then you give him the contract. It's a really twisted dynamic that Miami is in because he may not be himself next year in order for you to judge him for the future. And it's not fair to him and it's not fair to you. But I got to tell you something. I don't want to be that front office having to make that decision. Because
he's under contract for 24 and they have a 50-year option for 25.
That's probably what you have to do.
Because like Wilkins, I don't think Jalen and the Dolphins are probably going to be totally fine with the 5th-year option.
Right.
And then go from there.
They have to be because, unfortunately, the Dolphins will not really know if he's completely back next year until the following season. that then he has a whole off season of being healthy and not rehabbing like he is this whole off season. You know what I mean? It's a really difficult situation. I feel bad for him, man, because it looked like he was really going to turn the corner this year, man. What a shame. What a shame. That's a rough one. What do you got going on the Palm Beach Post?
Yeah, we're headed out to Dolphins camp in a little bit here. We'll see if Jason Pierre-Paul is available to the Dolphins media. Be interesting to see how many reps he gets the rest of the season compared to Emmanuel Ogbah, who obviously has a few sacks but hasn't been utilized hardly at all, as this coaches clearly feel he doesn't fit the scheme very well and that he's not that explosive. But I have to imagine Ogbah is more explosive at this point of his career than Jason Pierre-Paul. Maybe similar, I don't know. Looking forward to watching and see how he plays. Obviously, I think Van Ginkel will lead the three in snaps. So we know that as Mike McDaniel said on Hard Knocks, if you're not careful, you'll get Van Ginked, something like that. Anyway,
and you expect Good to be the guy that get the more linebacker play, then, right? That's what I think. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's a special teamer, and so, yes, maybe he'll get a few more snaps. We'll see if Jason Pierre-Paul is ready to play this weekend. I would think so. Why not? Why not? Go rush the passer when you're out there on third down.
All right, follow him on Twitter at Schad Joe, and more importantly, subscribe to the Palm Beach Post. Joe, as always, thank you, my friend. Appreciate you.
See you, bud.
You got it. There you go. The great Joe Schad and Essential Moving Experts. We love Sean Williams, Brooke, all the great people out there. You give them a ring. Listen, long distance moving services, home moving services, office relocation. They can help you in so many ways. Sean and the folks are just absolutely awesome. 386-213-4054. Flat rates, no surprise charges. This business is loaded with people that just give you ballpark figures. How the hell is that going to – nobody trusts you to give them the lower end of the ballpark figure. No, man, that's why Sean and the folks, they give you a flat rate, and that's what they do it for, to move you from one state to another, from one side of the country to another, from within the city, within the county, whatever it is you're doing. And they can even store your goods on the house for the first month. So maybe that house isn't ready yet, or the new office building, or whatever it is. They can store your stuff up to 1 month for free. Now, if you need it longer, you can negotiate a price for longer storage, but they can help you out, man. Call Sean Williams. Great people. A big-time Dolphins fan. 386-213-4054. Essential Moving Experts.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.